Oh,
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Huddle on Wednesday. It's that time of year. You know what I'd love to make? It's Thanksgiving in the US next week, and I love to make apple pie. But do you know why an apple pie goes to the dentist? Because it needs a filling.
Oh no, that was bad.
Is that laughing with or at Tara? Something else? Fake laughing? Something like that? Oh, well, I do love to make a good apple pie. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday on the Daily Huddle, where Tara and I talk about relationships and communication. And before we dive into our question, we like to get everybody grounded and here in the same space with a few questions of our own. And I want to start with Gio because I haven't seen him here in a while. So Gio, can you tell us where you are and what you're grateful for?
let me look. I am right where I'm supposed to be. I'm right here. And I am grateful for you guys. Yes.
Thank you, Gio. Well, in that same vein, I want to go over to Sorrel because I know that Tara and I are really grateful for the both of you for starting the Daily Huddle. We're going to talk a little about that today. So I want to ask Sorrel, how are you? And who are you going to hug today?
As you can tell in the background, it's different today.
Mm-hmm.
I am happy. I'm at my parents' house. And that's who I'm going to hug.
Oh, I love it. I love that smile on your face. It's beautiful. Thank you, Sorrel. Oh, that's great. And now I'd like to ask Andrea. Andrea, can you tell us what time it is?
Let me check, Kathryn. It's now. It's the only time.
That's right. Now, here, we are the way we say we are. And Tara and I are excited about this conversation. And we have a few faces who come sometimes, but not all the time. And we're really excited. And then we've got some folks who are here that we're going to invite to maybe chat a little bit. Our question today is, are you leveraging the power of community? And this question is born out of an event that Tara and I had over the weekend. As many of you know, Tara and I do a women's retreat, a little Saturday morning mini women's retreat every now and again. And we have the most amazing group of women come. And it's powerful and inspiring every time. And Tara and I often look and say, gosh, wow, how did we do this? What is it? Well, how, all this. And so this past weekend, the event had a lot to do with community. And so we wanted to talk about that. And first share a little bit of how it was born. So Tara and I met, and one day on our, famous little couch setting with a glass of wine one evening, we looked at each other and said, why don't we create the community that we want? We had had other experiences with different community groups, different friends and all of that. And it was like, why don't we just create what we want? We're wanting this longing, this deep, rich connection with other women. Why don't we create it? So we did. And such was born Femme Forte. And Tara, say a little bit about this past weekend and how it came about and the topic that we had and where we landed.
Yeah, so this past weekend was a Femme Forte mini retreat. And we always have, after the first one, we try to choose a theme and really kind of drill down on a theme. And the theme came from Kathryn mentioned to me that she had watched the Blue Zone documentaries, and I'd read a lot about it. So I went back and I read that too. And if you're not familiar with Dan Buettner, he is the gentleman who did years of research to identify where are the regions in the world that have the most centenarians? That is, people who live to over 100 years old. And he identified these regions and called them the Blue Zones. And a couple things unite these groups, some health habits, but something that they say really has has never left me. And it's that they're not pursuing longevity, these centenarians. They're not looking to put more years into their life. They're looking to put more life into their years. And the number one way that they do that is with a sense of community. So here we are in the United States of America, where we are all challenged to go harder, 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 figure it out by yourself, independence. There's a lot of that spirit in our country. And we look at community, relaxing and enjoying and connecting and being vulnerable. We look at it as a luxury and something that we have to earn. And I think we discovered this weekend that it's something that fuels us, that helps us to be more successful, more authentic, more engaged, have more energy. So that's just a dusting of the experience. We really want this to be a conversation in community. So I'm going to stop talking. And Kathryn, if you want to share a little bit more, and then let's talk to some of the folks that have joined us this morning that were there with us in community.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about this morning, and, community really is when two or more people get together. I was thinking, like, what is community? And I think it overwhelmed me at times, because it felt like it had to be a big thing, or it had to, like, consistency. I mean, you can feel it already. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, how am I ever going to fit that in or whatever? And what we found this weekend, and I'd love to hear Andrea speak a little bit more about it, is that Andrea shared that in her culture, community is really just there. It's not something you seek. It's not something you go find. It's not something you work towards. And so, Andrea, I'd love to hear your input on that and sort of where you come from, because for me, and I think it is being in the United States and how we're set up, I have big fences between all of our houses. I'm separated. There's not, you have to work to get out there and be with people. And so share a little bit about what you shared, if you don't mind, about community and your experience with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was conducting that exercise with Tara, because you guys tell us go in groups or pair. So I was speaking with Tara, and I was never asked to define culture from my personal point of view. And the first thing that came to mind is community is available, is there. It's not something that I'm originally from Colombia, Medellin, and it is a culture that community. It's not something that needs a label. It's something that you grow up with. The availability is there. If you want to, you can also remove yourself from community, because, again, it's not something that you are, like you mentioned at the beginning, something that you need to work for, something that you need to try to attain, something that is a luxury. Is there, is available. It's like I was telling Tara, it's like going to the grocery shopping and it's there. You need the culture, you need your community for some tequilas, then you go and buy some tequila. If you need your community for cotton balls because you need to be warm and feeling fuzzy, you go shop for it because it's available, but you need to nurture it. You need to go there. You need to find it and invest in it, because it can be available, but if you don't invest in it, then there's no back and forth between that growing and that aspect of being available, but also you are part of it. So I don't know if that summarizes, but is that availability, having it there, and your willingness to go there, invest yourself in it, work on it, because it's there. It's free to use.
That's great. Thank you, Andrea. That's exactly right. That's what we wanted to hear more from you about, because that's what Tara and I found. I mean, we would literally just put an invitation out there and bam, people showed up, and then we did it again, and we did it again, and we did it again. We didn't work really hard for it. In fact, we have found, and we've talked about this on the huddle, that the easier, if we start to have a hard time planning, we both take a break and go, wait, what's going on? This is hard. It's like the easier it is, the better it is, the more it flows, the more it comes.
Exactly. And you both have done an amazing job trying to find those commonalities, because we live in a tribalism community. Everybody wants to be separate. And when you find how you are connected to each other, common denominators, that makes this discussion easy. It is, because it is not just with quotes. It is easy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Andrea. And, now, Tara, I'd love to talk about like, what is it? What does it do for us? Why do we love it? Why do they love it or say they love it? We'll hear from them a little bit later if they want to speak, but what is it?
Well, one thing that I've discovered is that sometimes people like to show up in community to give.
Mm-hmm.
Just last night, a couple of women stopped over to my house. Maybe this is a little TMI. They were out walking and one of them had to use the bathroom, and she texted me. She's like, can I come in and go to the bathroom? And they did. But before they left, I told them about moving my daughter close to my home. And they all started saying, we want to have a party we want to have a housewarming party. And that's when the spirit of community just blossomed right in my house last night, because people wanted to give. But there's one person on here that really probably says it much better than I do. And it's Joanne. And she pointed out to me, because she's come to almost all of the Femme Forts. And she pointed this out to me from her perspective. So Joanne, come off mute and tell us about your Femme Fort / community experience and what the gifts have been for you.
So my Femme Fort.
Yeah, it's French, and it's a French word, so
I have to say it in French. My experience is definitely of empowerment, and I felt like, and I share from the beginning that going to those meetings was just such a powerful experience, because you and I use the expression, it's better than any therapy I've done before. Where sharing your experience with people or listening to other people's life experience, you relate, and this feeling of relating to and being able to share is just extremely powerful. And it goes back to, obviously, the community, the concept, where for me, interestingly, when we did the exercise, and I worked with Michelle, and where my view of community was basically helping people, because I get a lot, I get more from helping people than anything else. It's just it's fulfilling. And but then during the conversation, it came up, we talked about the Blue Zone without even knowing that was the topic you wanted to address. And coming from, like, I'm Canadian, and my culture, it is from France, obviously. And so the feeling of community, living together, and not living together, but like meeting, like dinner experiences, like having dinner together, sharing experiences. It's very, very important in our culture. And so we shared about, that we talked about that topic, and Michelle is also from Czechoslovakia, so she could relate to that sense of community that seems to be present, a lot in Europe. So.
That's great. Thanks, Joanne. And Andrea even said like that we find commonalities. And so I think that is also part of it. And being in community is finding what are the commonalities? What are also the differences? Where don't we connect, but I can learn something, or that I can, like you said, give back. And I do think that's one of the biggest things, Tara. I'd love to hear more about your perspective on this, but it has come up more and more. What Joanne is saying is that people want to give. They do want to give back. They want to give their experiences, their listening, all of that, and how that can be really powerful for a group.
Absolutely. I mean, I study the science of this, and there is just more research than we know what to do with that shows what happens in our brain when we're giving and when we're getting, so receiving. And the combination of those is very, very, the neurotransmitters that start to be produced in our brain when we are in a situation where we can receive and give all in the same setting, that's as close to flow state as we possibly can be as it relates to the chemicals. So yeah, it is absolutely powerful. And what delighted me, something that I think we're going to stick to as a tradition, is toward the end of this particular session, we asked each person to ask for just one thing that they need. And as they did this, like 3 or 4 people will be like, oh, I can have a connection for you. I can help you with that. I mean, just these ideas and this support. It was magic. We have a few more people, though, that are here today, and I hope Rhonda will be willing to come off mute, because Rhonda is, I think, might be the only person who's never missed a FemFort.
That is correct.
So we need to have a Rhonda Barnett Award at FemFort. But before, and she'll have one on her wall if she has room back there. But Rhonda, would you share with us, just in your own words, whatever just bubbles out of your heart, what keeps you coming?
I mean, to piggyback off what everyone else is saying, you know, we all come from such diverse and different backgrounds and cultures. But once we get into that room, it's a feeling of love and this energy. I'm very big on energy. And, you know, I don't care what I may have gone through the whole week. When I get there and leave there, I just feel so full. And it just gives me this driving ambition and motivation to continue going, and also to look for other sources of community. Because again, as Andrea said, it's at their doorstep, it's her culture. But for us, you know, we're all kind of self, you know, here in the States. And the feeling that you get after sharing and listening, you know, even at the end of that, the last one, and you asked, what do you need? And I was thinking, well, I got everything I needed. I don't know what I'm supposed to say, you know, because just that giving is so, the receiving of it is so powerful that you're not even looking for anything. You're there trying to be a listener and supporter, and you're finding all these things in common with so many different women. It doesn't matter who shows up. There's always commonalities, and it just feels so good and so powerful.
That is so beautiful. I remember the ending when we went around and each said, you know, just one word. Kathryn asked us, what is the one word that describes how you're feeling right now? Let's think about how you felt driving here on Saturday morning with your coffee. Let's think about how you feel now. And I remember that you said what I was feeling. You said full.
Yes.
We had some people say light. We had some people say energy. We heard grateful. But my favorite was somebody said lubricated. She was dead serious too. I just love her, love her, love her, love her. I was like, wow, I know what you mean. We also had another friend in our community that I've gotten to know through this screen for over 2 years now, I think. But it was her first FemFort experience. So I would love for you to tell us how it feels to be in new community, Michelle, and what community does for you in your life. Because you are on a motorcycle for hours and hours and hours, and that's the opposite of community. So if you would share with us. You're on mute.
Yeah, my space bar wasn't working to unmute. Sorry. So the thing that is interesting about being alone on my bike so much, I'm still part of a community. As motorcyclists pass each other, they wave. And so I never feel alone as long as there's another motorcyclist coming the other way. I keep meeting friends all day long as I travel. And sometimes I won't meet another motorcyclist all day long, but I'm part of a community called Bunk a Biker. And it's other motorcyclists who just put you up for the night. They don't know you from Adam, and you don't know them. But you have that common communal thing that connects you all, motorcycles.
It's like Andrea said, it's right there at your doorstep, or your, I don't know what you call it, your bike.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that's
your
great.
bike is like your key to the club, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what was it like to be in a new community with FemFort, since it was something that you hadn't done before? And I think everybody there had been there before.
Yeah, it was very interesting. And the way that you had us pair off with different questions to find each other. And I say find each other in the sense of understand each other and get that connection to each other so quickly. And I
way to
think the
say it. It
best
is what
way
we're
to
looking for.
connect with someone is to find commonalities.
Mm-hmm.
And those questions really helped with that, to find common ground, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Find
I
that
love to hear that.
motorcycle. Find that motorcycle between us, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I love that you asked that question, Tara, because sometimes for me that can be overwhelming. You know, I'm really busy. I've got all this stuff with kids, and it's like, okay, I've got to find a night to do it. You know, I feel tired from the week. I've got to go out and like be in a new community. That can be hard, a new networking group or something, you know, a new friend invited me to do. And so it is interesting to hear the difference of like, what is that like to go into new community? And I want to take that back. Yeah, thank you, Michelle, so much for your input. We loved having you there. And I think that I'd love to take that back to, are you leveraging the power of community? Because we've heard different ways in which people are. And what do we want folks to take away from this or share about this? Tara, what are your thoughts on that?
I'm glad that you brought us back to that, because this could be this conversation. I think if we just leave it as conversation, it could feel overwhelming. And I would like to share why I believe that to be the case, just from my personal perspective. And many of you have heard me say this before, but when I go into a giant networking setting, or even like a big wedding or a cocktail party or something where I don't know anybody and there's just hundreds of people in the room, that does not feel like community to me. It is very stressful. Some people love that setting. One of my dearest friends loves to just go from meet to meet to meet to meet person. For me, and interestingly, I just left the networking setting this morning. There was about 25 people there. It was quiet so we could talk. And I really connected with 3 or 4 people, like really rich, juicy conversation. That fills me up. That will power me through this day. And I think the obvious, are you leveraging your community, is business-minded networking. And for me, I know for Joanne, I think for you too, Kathryn, that's kind of like the secondary benefit. Did this happen to fuel my business? Yes. But in the meantime, it's fueling my energy, my confidence, my ability to be authentic, my ability to grow. And to me, that is the value of community. So I think the biggest thing I could encourage listeners, if they're like, what do I do with this, is ask yourself, what is the best community for you, how you're wired, and make sure to make time for that type of community, because it will serve you in a number of ways: your health, your energy, and your business.
I love that you said that, because that's so true. And, you know, I probably, like most people, I'm a part of a lot of groups, and they're all different types of community, but we were very intentional about what we wanted to create. We wanted that deep, rich, meaningful conversation that left us feeling filled up. And so I say I would add that to it as well. If you're looking for something, if you're seeking something or longing for something, it's just be intentional about what it is you're looking for. And we have seen that you can find it anywhere. Just like Andrea says, it's out there waiting.
You know, one thing I think would be kind of cool to share is, as you and I have built this community, in the beginning, and here's where the stress was for me, is that I tried to mirror your energy. And that didn't work for me. I think I've said it before, you're more woo-woo, I'm more Yahoo. But when we let those parts of ourselves shine, it is just power and freedom. And I think that's part of it, is find a community where you can let yourself be your true self. And that's what we are working so hard to create. Yes.
And I think, yes, it's as easy as it was, we kept creating it. And I think we use it as sort of an experiment. Like, can this be easy? And you just said we work so hard to create it. We work so easy to create it.
Right.
You know, but it is. It's like, can this be easy? Can we be our full true selves and it fill us up completely? And the answer is yes. So I love seeing Cyril's big smile on the screen. He's got his hand up. I want to hear what he has to say.
Oh my God, you guys are just killing me this morning. You had me at lubricated.
I wish she was on here. I'll have to make sure she watches the show.
Here's what there that's bubbling up for me and that I'm learning is that as you were speaking, I'm saying, wait a minute, we live on this planet, and anywhere there are other beings, other things, other people, automatically there's community. And so it's as if I could be operating like there is no community. And what I'm getting, Tara and Kathryn and everyone, is that, oh, community may be a function of my participation. Like if I participate and engage myself, I can engage myself in any way I like. I can engage myself in a taking, hating, and irascible way, or I can engage myself in a giving, loving, and sharing way. And how I participate in community that already exists. Because I can't, I can't not be in community. I can take myself out of it by not participating. So how I participate in community gives me the life I live. And I was like, I'm writing down feverishly. It's like, oh, if I participate in to take, get, or hate, I'll be empty, heavy, and dry.
Mm.
Participate to care, share, love, and give. I'll be full, light, and lubricated. It's all a function of participation.
That's
Yes,
so beautiful.
and like I know. And what I'm hearing is it's easier to be in community than to not be in community.
Yeah, and it's like this. I cannot be outside of community, period, because it's all around me.
Right.
So then how do I participate?
Right.
And so I'm leaving this conversation being very responsible about my participation in community.
I love that, Sorrel. Thank you. Thank you as always.
Yeah,
thank you for loving the lubrication.
Oh my God, don't carry that anymore.
I know. Michelle, you had your hand up and I see it down. Is there something that you wanted to say?
It's about being authentic is what I'm hearing. You're going to end up in the wrong community if you're there for the wrong purpose, with the wrong intentions, or you're not being yourself because you're trying to fit. You have to be yourself to find your people, to find your right community.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Couldn't agree more. I think we've got time to hear from Rashida real quickly before we close it out. I know you're trying to chime in, darling.
Thank you so much. I'm telling you, I am done with Sorrel. I love the lubrication part. Trust me.
Too much.
I just love, I'm telling you, I was like, no, she did not say that. Oh, yes, she did. But I'm telling you, thank you so much, Tara and Kathryn, for the midst of this juicy conversation. And why I say juicy conversation is that when I go into any setting, I make sure I belong. I make sure the spirit that I goes in is like, oh, there she come. Yes, there she come, because I'm going to belong to the community, because I come there to share my love, my consciousness, my awareness, my giving. This is what I take with me when I go into any community setting. Thank you so much for the point. And trust me, that lubrication, I'm going to go with it for the day. Thank you.
Next time I come on the Daily Huddle and someone says, how are you today? I'm going to be ready with, I am the way I say I am, and I am lubricated.
I will do my best to keep a straight face.
So, we're running up on time, but I would be crummy and remiss and heavy and dry if I did not reference the community from which FemFort was born. And that is this family right here. These spirited people that Sorrel and Gio brought together almost 1,000 episodes ago, back in 2020. It has built one of the most beautiful friendships that I know will last a lifetime with Kathryn and so many of you. And it is a daily opportunity to feel the benefits of community, the energy, the connection, as Michelle said, the authenticity. So I'm going to close us out after I see if Kathryn has anything left to share.
I love that you brought it back to that. I echo everything you said, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. And really, it was born from Gio and Sorrel having an idea and creating something that they wanted. So they both were born out of very similar places, and I'm forever grateful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I'll start with one of our 7 tenets, and that is to give. That is one of the beautiful benefits of community. Show up and give and receive. We need both. We need both to be a fulfilled human being, and do that with love. There's no better emotion than to remind ourselves to lead with love. And then don't take yourself too seriously, as we have not done this morning. Make sure you take time to throw that head back and laugh with reckless abandon, and take care of yourself. And that means to get your rest. It's so important. Feed your body just like they do in the blue zones with mostly plants. All of these habits will help you to reduce your stress. And the final one, as always, is to make sure that you get your booty out of that chair and keep that body moving. Thank you all for being here with us on the Daily Huddle. We love you all, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank
See you all
you.
next time.
Tara, Kathryn, thank you so much.
One love,
Thank you.
guys.
Bye,
One love.
everybody.
All right. Thank you.